Part 63. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 624. At this time, everyone in the store looked at Shenjian as if they had seen a ghost. Warrior. Is this little brother really a newcomer who wants to join the underworld? Rather than a veteran in the underworld? Just because of his courage, he doesn't look like a newcomer. Is it possible? Is this a test from the organization? Think of this. All the Ghost Kings had different moods. Since entering the coffee shop, they have been waiting, and no one came to check them during this period. They asked the only puppet barista present, but the other person was just a non-staff member. They didn't know how the organization would carry out the assessment, so they just asked them to wait. And now, the appearance of Shenjian made them see this possibility. Except for the Yin Cao organization, it seems that no one dares to provoke the two Abyss-level Ghost Kings. The more I think about it, the Ghost Kings felt more and more that Shenjian was here to test them. My mind also started to become active. Everyone watched intently, wondering what the test was all about. At the same time, Shenjian turned his attention to the little loli again. Little sister, don't be so vigilant. Uncle is not a bad person. You are still sitting in the coffee shop so late. Are your parents dead? Shenjian said casually. Little loli. Her face turned dark. Although she also felt that this strange man was probably the evaluator of Yin Cao, but his mouth was too bad. The internet speaks for itself, so it's you. I'm just sitting here, you scolded my parents to death. But she couldn't refute it yet. Because her parents are really dead. Grass. So humming infuriating. But after thinking about it, little loli suddenly felt that the assessment of the Yin Cao organization should not be so simple. If you just tolerate a piece of shit, then anyone has a chance to join the Yin Cao. This is obviously not the real purpose of the assessment. In their minds, Yin Cao is an evil organization, and its reputation in Wutong City has become a taboo, making all residents fear it. How can an organizational assessment like this be a test of tolerance? The test should also be to test their cruelty and cruelty. Suddenly, the little loli seemed to understand something. Yes. This is the truth behind the assessment of the Yin Cao organization. Yin Cao people, Yin Cao souls, and Yin Cao are all human masters. Such an evil organization must be a group of inhumane, cruel, and indifferent lunatics who can frame and kill even their teammates who are also part of the underworld organization. Faced with a sinister examiner who provokes them, their choice should be: do it. Then, the little loli suddenly smiled strangely and put her face towards her, saying in a charming voice, "Uncle, you want to know, where have my parents gone?" "No, uncle, my parents have something to talk to you said. Little loli handed the life-size stuffed rabbit in front of Shenjian. The expression on his face became increasingly sinister. She already understood the true purpose of the assessment. What Yin Cao needs is a rebellious ghost king who won't obey anyone, even if they are newcomers. They must still have this character. Even if they could kill this examiner, the Yin Cao organization might be able to take a higher look at them. Because of this, her malice is completely unabashed. The terrifying supernatural force belonging to the Abyss-level Ghost King swept the entire place instantly. It made all the Ghost Kings tremble. However, facing what little loli said, Shenjian's eyes were full of regret. "Little sister, how old are you?" 13 years old, what's wrong? Is there a rule that young people can't come here? Already so old? Alas, most children of your age with normal intelligence. Shenjian hesitated, looking like you are so pitiful. The little loli looked aggrieved. Damn it, can you stop being like the Riddler and finish your sentence for me? What do you mean, Her voice deepened. Children with normal intelligence should know that there are no parents in the stuffed toy. The reason why there is sound inside is because of the sensor. Once the switch is touched, the stuffed toy will make a specific sound, but this is not your dad. Mother. If you had normal intelligence, your parents wouldn't want you. Shen Jian touched the little Loli's head with compassion. As he spoke, he sighed. As if to say, what a good boy, but unfortunately he is a fool. Little Loli. After listening, she was stunned on the spot. He looked at Shen Jian with a very different expression. You're a humming genius. It's obviously a supernatural incident, but you can actually misinterpret it like this. There are sensors in the stuffed toys. Do you dare to open your mind a little more? Couldn't there be someone really inside? His grandma's, if you get closer to science, you should be the one to take the photo. You are really a genius at understanding. The little Loli was completely speechless. He was so anxious that he stamped his feet, and his little face turned red. The originally delicate face showed a terrifying dead look, and the body seemed to be split apart. See this? Shen Jian comforted him, little sister, don't believe it. Can uncle still lie to you? In this way, you give me the stuffed toy, and uncle will help you get rid of feudal superstition. Now you don't want to play tricks. Hear this. The little Loli's eyes lit up. He immediately showed a cruel smile and handed over the stuffed rabbit in his hand. She couldn't wait to kill this mouth substitute expert. It's so irritating. Who did the Yin Cao organization send here? This is it. Soon. Shen Jian took the stuffed rabbit. It's obviously just a plush toy over 1 meter tall, but it weighs quite a bit in your hand, weighing over 200 kilograms. It's like there are 2 adults stuffed inside. Shen Jian took a look. Not like. But there were really 2 adults inside. They are the parents of this little Loli. He was killed in a cruel way, cut into pieces, and put into stuffed toys. And in his perception, the 2 dismembered corpses were not dead, and the supernatural fluctuations were still very strong. It has Ghost King level Yin Qi fluctuations. Once you get it? A cold, resentful, and bone-deep anger began to envelope his body. The killing pattern among supernatural beings was triggered. The stuffed rabbit's belly seemed to be bursting open, as if something filled with resentment was about to revive. To this, the little Loli is looking forward to it very much. She couldn't see Shen Jian's true identity, but he could become an examiner of the underworld, and at least he had the strength of a ghost king, or even an abyss. It doesn't feel good either. Just thinking about it. Little Loli saw Shen Jian taking out a giant ghost sickle. In her horrified eyes, the scythe split the stuffed animal in 2. All the ghost kings. Little Loli. Damn it. Do you think this is killing a pig? So neat and tidy. Little sister, look, can the stuffed toy still talk now? Shen Jian grinned and handed over the 2 stuffed toys. The little Loli took the toy in her hand blankly, her mouth slightly opened, and she wanted to say something, but when the words came to her mouth, she felt it was inappropriate. People nowadays, to break feudal superstition is to use more feudal means to kill superstitious things. If I don't accept this fact, are you going to get rid of me as a feudal superstition? Damn it! You know how to render people speechless. I shouldn't be the one who stands out. At this time, the little Loli was still confused. She came to join Yinko because she wanted to do all kinds of evil and enhance the strength of the ghost corpse so that it could advance to the abyss level. Now the ghost corpse is imprisoned. Before joining the organization, he lost 30% of his strength. This is too grassy. She couldn't even describe her mood at this moment, even if she wanted to cry. The other ghost kings saw this. Every eyelid trembled. As expected of a member of the Yin Cao organization, killing the Ghost King is as easy as killing a chicken. Especially the Ghost Sickle, which killed countless ghosts, and the terrifying aura lingering on it made everyone feel chilly. Although they are ghost kings, they cannot withstand such a ghost weapon that can restrain powerful ghosts being slashed at them. For a while, the ghosts were dead silent. They originally thought of provoking the assessors, but now they no longer have such thoughts. Perhaps in the assessment of the Yin-Cao organization, there is indeed an option to attack the assessors, but with their strength, they are obviously not competent. It's better to wait obediently for the examiner to come up with the questions. Otherwise, the ghost's life is at risk. See this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows slightly. The Ghost King here is a bit cowardly. Even though he was showing his malice like this group of people didn't even plan to join forces. Thinking. Shen Jian looked at the white paper in his hand. The predictive text content above was no longer displayed after he entered the coffee shop. Apparently waiting for him to be killed. But for now, the tables were turned. Parchment. Not long after, the content of the foreknowledge resurfaced. I thought I was dead, but I hid my strength, took out a ghost sickle on the spot, and killed 2 ghost kings, intimidating these villains. But I know this is only temporary. Once the real examiner of the Yin-Cao organization comes over, I will be exposed as a fake person. Then, under the siege of a group of ghosts, I will be unable to defeat 4 people with just 2 fists, and I will still hate the Northwest. See this. Shen Jian was slightly startled. Fake assessor? I see. These ghost kings regarded him as an examiner of the Yin-Cao organization, and he showed his strength, which led to the current situation. Got this? Shen Jian's eyes were strange. He hadn't thought about pretending to be an evaluator, but it wasn't bad. Think about it. Shen Jian took out a soul-binding bag from his body. Throw it in front of these ghost kings. He said casually, you are the worst class I have ever led. Come in. The words fell. The other ghost kings all reacted. Did they pass? Although I was criticized a lot, it doesn't matter if I can join Yinko and get scolded a few times. As for entering the soul-binding bag, as expected of an underworld organization, be cautious. It smells like underground arms trading. This is how authentic evil organizations do things. He is not a formal member of the organization and cannot even find his base. With this thought, these ghost kings got into the sack one after another. The puppet barista was left alone and messy. The Yin-Cao examiner this time seems to be different from the previous ones. I always feel like something is wrong. But seeing Shen Jian's attitude, he didn't dare to say more. After all, the Yin-Cao organization can really kill each other. Killing accomplices is even more common. That's all. He watched silently as Shen Jian left here carrying the sack. Exited the coffee shop. The contents of the prophetic text changed again. This time, it no longer appears as content controlled by precognitive ghosts. It's Shen Jian's true thoughts. My name is Shen Jian. I gave up the idea of breaking into the Yin-Cao organization now because I think it is safer to grab the parchment first. I don't know where the parchment is, but I know, there is a bookstore less than 1,000 meters away from here that has what I want. Jajaja. Parchment. Damn it. Was he exposed? Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 625. Crunch. As the door of the coffee shop was pushed open, Shen Jian walked out carrying the sack, with a simple harvest smile on his face. With the 7 wealthless ghosts, plus the 6 he had captured before, he had already completed a quarter of his performance target for unlocking the Hungry Ghost Realm, one of the 3 evil realms. This is a rare gain. But the biggest gain is not these, but the parchment that can predict the future and help him find more moneyless ghosts. This is the biggest gain from this trip. With the parchment, he can piece together the goal of unlocking the path of the hungry ghost in this copy of the movie. Later, it can also be used to find dragon energy, Luo Fengtian's authority. The temptation is too great. It was so big that he couldn't wait and couldn't even take care of the underworld examiner who would appear later. After all, with the parchment, he can know the true base of Yinko at any time. There is no need to rush. On the contrary, the parchment had already started running away. He didn't know the true identity of the parchment, nor where the other party was. But he could clearly sense that the dragon energy with 5% share began to flee in the opposite direction to him. This shows that parchment has already sensed the danger and is preparing to leave this place. See this. A faint look appeared in Shen Jian's eyes. The ghost eyes opened. The scarlet ghost domain suddenly covered the entire scene, disappearing with him and Wang Lan, who was stagnant in place. Not long after, a crazy man wearing a trench coat and clown makeup on his face pushed open the door of the coffee shop. "GGG, you've been waiting for a long time. Dear newcomers, let us welcome you." The words stopped abruptly before he finished speaking. The clown ghost looked at the empty shop, and his crazy face suddenly stiffened. "What's going on? Where are my people? Where are all my newcomers?" Suddenly, he looked at the puppet barista at the counter. The puppet barista looked at him strangely and said, "You are late. The assessor has already taken the newcomers to the assignment base. You can come back next time." "Clown?" He was slightly startled. "Damn it. I'm still here, where did this assessor come from?" I'm the examiner of Yin Cao. Where are my people? Are you going to just watch others take away our Yin Cao newcomer?" The clown couldn't hold himself any longer. "Who is this? Are you still trying to steal people from them? Is this the courage of a leopard to eat his ambition?" First timing. The clown brought the situation together. Start looking for the man pretending to be the assessor. At the same time, a bookstore not far from the coffee shop. In a dark environment, the well-dressed bookstore owner pulled out a piece of parchment. There is no writing on the parchment pie, it is blank. However, next moment, something strange happened. Handwriting suddenly appeared one by one, as if there was an invisible ghost holding a black pen and writing quickly on the parchment. And this kind of writing is not visible to the entire area, but is something only he can see. "My name is Passerby, and my current name is Lucky Ghost. One day, I was lucky enough to get a prophetic power that could overturn the world. It is parchment. From the parchment, I learned that the world I was in was a breeding farm opened by a ghost named World Weary. Its purpose was to cultivate ghosts and gods, and I was an unknown person with no sense of existence in this supernatural world. Determined to replace the protagonist's identity, enter the eyes of this ghost and god, and become a key training target. To this end, I use the supernatural power of parchment to project other people's futures in Nanjing district, in order to create noise and attract the attention of world-weary ghosts and gods, hoping that the other party will take me seriously. However, I failed. Even though I had turned this area into a forbidden land, I still did not gain the respect of the world-weary ghosts and gods, and I began to decline. Until today, I discovered that humans have entered this supernatural world, which rekindled my hope. I decided to eliminate this group of humans to attract attention. My plan was successful until I met a human being who was difficult to kill. The future predicted by the parchment could not be realized at all. I began to suspect that the power of the parchment had an upper limit. Beyond this limit, it would be impossible to accurately predict the future situation. Soon, I was found. I am dead. Lucky Ghost's expression suddenly solidified. So far, the parchment's precognitive power has only failed to work on that man. But the rest of the time, the predicted future is bound to come true. In other words, He has been discovered. He would soon die at the hands of that man. Think of this. Lucky Ghost's face turned pale. What happened to that human being? Is he a being above ghosts and gods? Is this why the parchment couldn't predict the future? Could it even predict the wrong future? Parchment, I know you are alive. I also saw your conversation with that human being. I think you don't want to be controlled by an existence far beyond you. I need you to use your supernatural powers to find out what is the situation of human beings. Only in this way can we escape. Lucky Ghost sounded anxious. Parchment. Soon. New writing appeared on the parchment. I am the great Lord Parchment. I will not be controlled by anyone, but I need a host to activate my supernatural powers. I cannot act alone. Instead of being caught by that dog human, I would rather let you, a loser who only knows how to control me, control me. Lucky Ghost. Look at the text above. The corner of his mouth twitched. Damn it, I'm just being humble about myself. I didn't expect you to be so merciless. The scolding was really unpleasant. I'm a coward and a loser, but I'm riding a horse and I haven't eaten your rice. You curse again. Maybe he heard the Lucky Ghost's voice. On the parchment, new content is being generated. My name is Lucky Ghost, and I am the king of ghosts determined to become the protagonist. Today, I am in a desperate situation. I don't want to die, and I don't want to see the parchment taken away. So I reached a consensus with the Great Lord Parchment and activated the precognition to the maximum extent, hoping to find a future route that would allow this human being to die. I started trying to see who this human being really was. For a long time. There was no movement on the parchment either. The Lucky Ghost is waiting anxiously. Cold sweat has broken out. Because every second he delayed, his hope of escape became slimmer. Just thinking about it. There was finally movement on the parchment. The black handwriting was writing something at a speed that was beyond ordinary people's ability to react. Lucky Ghost looked. Like falling into an ice cave. Because what is written here is not the hope of escape or the death route of that human being. But three words densely packed together. I'm done, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. I tried to trace the identity of that human being, and I traced it back. He's still a. He is so great, so perfect, so sacred, and sublime, and I am so small. How can I escape his eyes? I was so scared, I still tried to run away. But I stopped again. Because he has come. My name is Lucky Ghost. I am lucky. First I got the great parchment, and then I met the legendary. The writing on the parchment was written quickly. The handwriting emerged several times faster than before, as if someone put a gun to his head and would be shot if he wrote slowly. It took almost an instant. The dense content emerged. See this. The Lucky Ghost felt cold all over his body. The pupils widened little by little. I specifically asked you to use your supernatural powers to find the hope of escape, not to let you degrade me to this point. Also, what the hell is this asterisk? Even if this human being has any special identity, it is at best like a ghost or god. You even dare to write down the name of the world-weary ghost and god who created this supernatural world. He is just a human being. Even if he is a ghost and god, what can you not dare to say? His grandmas. I saw you were so scared when you were having a tough fight with that human. It's only been a while, and your position is too unstable. Parchment, I don't want this answer. I want a way to escape from here. If it doesn't work, help me summon the world-weary ghosts and gods. How can he, a human being, still mess around in the supernatural world created by the world-weary ghosts and gods? Lucky Ghost scolded. He doesn't want to die. I don't even want to lose the parchment. Without the parchment, he is just a passerby NPC without a name. Although he runs a bookstore, the business is sluggish and he can't make ends meet. It can be said. It was the parchment that enabled him to become the prophetic ghost that everyone talked about in Nanjing district. Without this supernatural power, he is just like the parchment said, a coward and a loser. However, reaction to the lucky ghost. The parchment kept repeating 3 words. He's coming, he's coming, he's coming. Damn it! The lucky ghost gritted his teeth. The pupils were a little bit bloodshot, and the canthus was about to burst. The powerful fluctuations belonging to the Ghost King erupted. The ghost realm unfolds. He was about to escape to the protagonist in this supernatural world, but he didn't believe that if the protagonist encountered danger, the world-weary ghost and God would not show up to save him. After all, the protagonist is the ghost or God chosen by the opponent. Immediately, he grabbed the parchment and prepared to use ghost teleportation. But the next second, Lucky Ghost suddenly discovered that his ghost realm could not be used. Not to mention teleportation, even covering the whole body cannot be done. He could only watch helplessly as the world in front of him turned into scarlet. Then, a figure suddenly appeared. Like God's presence. At the same time, on parchment, the black handwriting was written faster. My name is Lucky Ghost. At this moment, I am trying to escape from the hands of a supreme being. Maybe it is because I don't know what I am capable of, and I don't know how high the sky is. Haha. This paragraph may seem yin and yang, but in fact it is sarcastic, which can be said to fully demonstrate the double-labeled nature of parchment. If I am not dizzy, I should kneel on the ground now, welcome the arrival of God, and offer the great parchment with both hands. In this way, I may have a glimmer of hope. Because God is merciful, I am worthless to God, and God will not care about me. God is only interested in the great Lord Parchment. Ah, God, thank you for seeing my worth. Lucky Ghost. MMP. You damn bitch. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 626. This moment, the world turned scarlet. A slender figure suddenly appeared in the bookstore. Lucky Ghost raised his head, and just by looking at it, he couldn't help feeling palpitations in his heart. It felt like someone was standing on the starry sky, overlooking the sun, moon, and stars, sitting and watching the starry sky flow and the stars and rivers reverse. A feeling of weakness all over his body, as if all his ambitions were meaningless, came to his heart. Is this an existence whose name is not even dared to be praised on parchment and can only be replaced with an asterisk? Why? Why does he, a human being, have such power? At this moment, Lucky Ghost couldn't figure it out and his mind fell into a daze. He couldn't imagine that weak humans could possess such power. Even the world-weary ghosts and gods who created this supernatural world, Parchment dared to call him by his real name without any hint of cowardice. However, when tracing the identity of this human being, Parchment changed his mind. Not only did he sell him, but he also took him seriously. Started licking the dog. Did he forget that he had provoked this human being before? The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Originally, he had no doubts about the quality of Parchment. Even if the other party was so narcissistic that he called himself the Great Master Parchment, he never felt anything was wrong. After all, predicting the death of others, interfering with the fate of others, and affecting the lives of others are all enough to prove the horror of Parchment. In his opinion, the supernatural power of Parchment is definitely higher than that of ghosts and gods. But now, the great Lord Parchment has turned into a humble little paper boy. This stark contrast made him realize that in Parchment's heart, this human being was more terrifying than world-weary ghosts and gods. Think of this. The lucky ghost looked uncertain. I wanted to resist, but I was completely powerless. He knew that he could not keep the parchment. The other side. Shen Jian appeared inside the bookstore. At first glance, I saw a well-dressed lucky guy who looked like a decadent failed scholar. A few waves flashed in his eyes. The 5% share of dragon energy he felt was in this ghost. And the black writing that keeps appearing in the opponent's hand, like the parchment made of scrolls, should be the precognitive ghost in the player's mouth. At this point, Shen Jian really didn't expect it. He originally thought that the precognitive ghost was a special ghost with the ability to move, but he didn't expect that it was actually a parchment scroll. The so-called dragon energy is not in him, but appears in an unrelated ghost king. From this point of view, it is precisely because of this 5% share of dragon energy that the lucky ghost got the parchment, causing the current desolate situation in Nanjing district. See this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. He looked at the lucky ghost with indifferent eyes. That moment, the lucky ghost only feels that death is so close. But he would rather die standing than die like a coward in the end. However, he has no control over all this. Suddenly, an inexplicable emotion surged into his heart. He couldn't help but whisper, with deep respect. Great Lord of the Underworld, Lord of the Underworld, your arrival brings billions of rays of light, so dazzling and bright. Where you are is the order of the underworld, and the place you pass is the land of grace, the hometown of ghosts, and the legendary Garden of Eden. Only you, and only you, can sweep away the filth in the world. The words have not yet finished. Lucky Ghost's eyes widened and he covered his mouth tightly. Just now. Is the parchment controlling his body and talking? Does he still have such ability? But you licked it too much. To say you are a licker is an understatement. You're such a proper pug. Still wagging his tail. Besides, if you want to flatter me, write on the humming parchment, what are you doing with my body? Those who didn't know, thought it was me licking them. The lucky guy who was shocked by this sudden word of dog licking didn't know what to say at this moment. He glanced at Shen Jian out of the corner of his eye. I also wrote down what the parchment was called just now. Lord of the Underworld, Lord of the Underworld. Is this the name that the parchments at that time did not dare to write? What are the first 3 asterisks? Heard this title? Shen Jian was also slightly startled. The interest in his eyes became even stronger. This parchment once again exceeded his expectations. His precognitive powers can actually trace his identity as the Lord of the Underworld. It is a complete fantasy for a mere fierce ghost to achieve this. Then, Shen Jian's eyes became serious. He glanced at the parchment again. The surprise in his eyes deepened. You are very special. You carry with you the aura of the true spirit of Taisha Liangshi Zongtian Palace, one of Luo Fengtian. Speaking of which, Shen Jian had some enlightenment. Ordinary ghosts cannot trace his identity, but Luo Fengtian is originally a part of the underworld, and the status of Luo Feng's 6th-day master spirit in the underworld is much higher than that of a normal city god. His power may not be as powerful as the 10 palaces of Yama, but in terms of status, he is on the same level as the king of hell. It is indeed possible for such a being to find out his identity through his breath. However, is Luo Fengtian's master spirit still alive? Shen Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. The one who dominates Luo Fengtian is the 5 Directions Ghost Emperor. But according to Zhangzhong, the city god of the mythical period, changes occurred in the underworld at that time. The great emperor of Fengdu, the ghost emperor of the 5 Directions, and the king of hell of the 10 palaces all disappeared together with the broken 6 paths of reincarnation and the 18 levels of hell. The entire underworld was completely missing. But today, he actually sensed the aura of one of Luo Fengtian's master spirits. If we say that the Five Directions Ghost Emperor is Luo Fengtian's actual manager. The true master spirit was conceived by Luo Fengtian himself, and was similar to a weapon spirit. Luo Fengtian still exists, so it is not surprising that there is still a trace of the power of the true master spirit. Shen Jian pondered for a moment and had the answer in his heart. Thinking. The lucky ghost on the side watched eagerly. He didn't know what Lord of the Underworld meant, but he had heard of the name, but it had to be preceded by the word Yin Cao. The Underworld. Yes. What he knows is the evil organization that exists in this supernatural world, Yin Cao. Because of this, he stared at the conversation between Shen Jian and Parchment, not knowing what to do. However, he didn't know what to say, someone would say it for him. Lucky Ghost didn't want to open his mouth, for fear that he would say similar dog-licking remarks again, but he could only watch his mouth open involuntarily, and let out a sound of praise from the inside out. Great Lord of the Underworld, all the truth is so clear in your eyes, and all the lies in the world cannot escape your eyes of true knowledge like the blazing Sunday. As the great you said, I am just a supernatural being with a little breath of the true spirit of Taisha Liangshi Sek's heavenly palace. For you, the most noble person in the world, I am so small and humble. The lucky ghost is a praising person with a hopeless look on his face. He finally understood that he did not even have equal rights in front of the parchment. Before the licking dog finished licking it, he was just a microphone. The reason why the other party did not write directly on the parchment was probably because he felt that it would be a disrespectful act for him to respond to the Lord of the Underworld by writing. Naturally, Lucky Ghost understood the meaning of the parchment. That's what I thought. Shen Jian stretched out his hand and grabbed the parchment. Moment. He made sure of it. It was indeed the remaining aura of Luo Fengtian's true spirit. From the parchment, he sensed that the true master spirit had dissipated, and the parchment was the last supernatural thing that carried the aura of the true spirit of Taisha Liangshi Sek's heavenly palace. No wonder it has such special supernatural strength. I see. There was some emotion in Shen Jian's eyes. What kind of disaster did the underworld encounter back then? Even the true master spirit was wiped out. Just thinking about it? More black writing appeared on the parchment, and Lucky Ghost also discovered that as the black writing was being written, he also spoke out simultaneously. It is the greatest honor of my life to be able to fall into the hands of the great Lord of the Underworld and feel the warmth as cold as the abyss of hell. Shen Jian. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Although it felt good to be complimented, the parchment was indeed too licking, which made him a little unbearable. Okay, don't talk to me in this tone. Shen Jian waved his hand. Asked, how did you get here? Did the world-weary ghosts and gods send you here? Great. Ahem, my parchment has nothing to do with that crazy woman. I came in because I foresaw that there would be an opportunity for me to be reborn. But that crazy woman did know that I was here, and she planned to let her take a fancy to it. The disciple came to conquer me without even looking at who the great master parchment is. I only belong to the Supreme Lord of the Underworld. With the help of Lucky Ghost's voice, the parchment once again expressed its position. To sum it up in one sentence, I am not familiar with her. Shen Jian was thoughtful. He originally thought that the world-weary ghost god had obtained complete authority over Luo Fengtian and became the manager of the third Luo Fengtian, but now it seems that it is not that simple. Otherwise, Parchment would never have this attitude. Thinking. Shen Jian turned his attention to Lucky Ghost again. You know he has one of Luo Fengtian's powers, right? I know, that crazy woman dispersed the division authority of Zhouju Yintian Palace again and placed it on these people, preparing to wait for her favorite apprentice to absorb it. Parchment said angrily. How could Luo Fengtian's authority fall into the hands of others like this? This is a kind of blasphemy. That mad woman is so abominable. Great Lord of the Underworld, you must teach that mad woman a lesson and take back her authority. Let me, your humble servant, return to the embrace of the underworld and bathe in your grace." Shen Jian glanced at the parchment. Lucky Ghost shivered and quickly closed his mouth. "See this?" Shen Jian drew out the dragon energy from Lucky Ghost's body. This moment, Lucky Ghost regained control of himself. Looking at the golden dragon that Shen Jian drew out of thin air, he showed a bit of melancholy. Gone. All gone. Not only was the parchment gone, but the so-called authority was also gone from his body. This time, he really had nothing. Shen Jian seemed to see what he was thinking. Throwing the parchment back into his hand, he said casually, "You keep this. I will come to you when I need to use it." Lucky Ghost? Parchment? Great Lord of the Underworld, have you given up on the insignificant me? Don't think too much, Shen Jian interrupted, I have some very important things to do. If someone is around me, they will disturb me. When I need you, I will give you a chance to perform. Joke. With this licking dog by his side, how could he attack the protagonist's mother? He didn't want the parchment to say "don't be shameless" when he was attacking the protagonist's mother. In that case, he might really want to use the parchment to hold the toilet. Another chapter was censored, alas. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 627. Chapter 623. Auntie, you are so beautiful. At the same time, outside the bookstore, Wang Lan grabbed the notebook in his hand and looked around nervously. From the corner of his eye, he glanced at the sack on the side. I just feel my scalp is numb. If she had read correctly before, this sack should be filled with ghost kings. There are also 2 abyss-level ghost kings among them. Once these ghost kings are allowed to come out, not to mention a group of players, even 2 5-star players will die here. However, Shen Jian caught them all. She was standing outside the coffee shop and saw clearly that Shen Jian took out a ghost weapon to intimidate the ghosts, and then used some method to make the ghost kings willingly enter the sack without any effort. The force of blowing dust came out. When has she ever seen such a scene? It's all incredible. She didn't understand at all what method Shen Jian used to make a group of ghost kings trust him so much. Think of this. Wang Lan looked at the notebook in his hand. Since arriving at the bookstore, there are no more prophetic words in the notebook, as if it has completely lost its supernatural effect. Such a discovery also made her feel incredible. According to what she observed at the beginning, the supernatural effect of this prophetic ghost will last until the death of the victim. Even if something unexpected happens, it will end with she survived. Just like her time. However, this time, the supernatural power of the precognitive ghost disappeared for no reason. Based on the unusual lines of text that appeared at the end of the notebook, she suspected that this bookstore was the location of the precognitive ghost. At this time, someone sent a new message in the chat interface. Lian Cheng at Sister Lan, how are you doing over there? According to what other players said, the precognitive ghost's power failed for the 3rd time, and it was all related to King Yama. What did you find at the scene? See this. Wang Lan pondered. This is a private message. And she is an ally with the player whose ID is Lian Cheng. They had known each other several times before in the movie. Because they were both ghost masters, they naturally joined forces to overcome difficulties together. Moreover, as an executive of a large company, she has a clear understanding of people's hearts. It was obvious that this male player was interested in pursuing her. Before, she might have agreed. But now, she doesn't want to. If she wanted to find someone, she would naturally look for someone like Shen Jian. She believed that with her charm and active offensive, Shen Jian would be fascinated soon. Then, she replied perfunctorily. Sister Lan, he is very strong. Lian Chang? Of course I know he is very strong. How can he reach level 58 if he is not strong? But a level 58 player cannot survive in a supernatural land full of ghost kings, and it will cause him to suffer over and over again. The supernatural failure of foreseeing ghosts. This is the crux of the matter. What you said is so strong, it's just nonsense. Lian Cheng, what I mean is, does he have any special props or items on him? You also know my supernatural power. I can target anyone and steal an item from the other person. If it is something that can run rampant in the dungeon, I can steal the supernatural item and let's clear the dungeon. Sister Lan, it's best not to, otherwise I won't be able to protect you. Sister Lan, stop talking, he's out. Wang Lan closed the chat interface. Shaked his head. Don't say that she really didn't understand Shen Jian's methods. Even if she did, she wouldn't suggest that the other party activate his supernatural powers to steal. After all, in her opinion, Shen Jian used hard power to conquer the evil spirits. Once he was noticed, if someone uses supernatural powers on him, they will definitely fight to the death. I just hope that his ally will listen to his advice. Just thinking about it? Shen Jian walked out of the bookstore. Behind him was a well-dressed fierce ghost with a strong bookish aura. At once, Wang Yian's scalp felt numb. Because she realized that this ghost was the king of ghosts. And the parchment in the other person's hand made her immediately think that this was the prophetic ghost. Don't be nervous, we're on our own. Shen Jian waved his hand and said calmly. Wang Lan? She was stunned. One of our own. Damn it. After convincing people with virtue, you developed a routine to turn ghosts into your own? Could it be that he was beaten again? She muttered. He became more and more curious about Shen Jian's strength. Even a 5-star player can't do this. If you want to turn a ghost king into one of your own, first of all, your own supernatural strength cannot be weaker than the abyss level, or even the abyss level. After all, although they are ghost masters, they are still human beings. As humans, they will have flaws, they will slack off, and they will die if they are attacked. Even if you have the strength to crush the Ghost King, you would not dare to keep a Ghost King next to you, because it is undoubtedly an extra time bomb. However, in Shen Jian's eyes, there seemed to be no such concerns. A feeling of calm. The desire to explore in her eyes became stronger. Although a woman's curiosity about a man is the beginning of her downfall, she doesn't care. Thinking. Lucky Ghost, who followed Shen to exercise, seemed to have noticed something. The parchment roll in his hand began to move. The black writing continues to write. My name is Wang Lan. When you read this sentence, I am still alive. I am very lucky. My life was saved by the great earth, the great him. This will be the most glorious moment in my life. I have a connection with the Supreme Him. For this reason, I am very curious about everything about him. I want to know him, pursue him, have him think about me, surrender to me. When I write this, the parchment seemed to be disgusted. No longer activate supernatural powers. Instead, write it yourself. Pooh. It is also this moment. The whole place fell silent. Shen Jian. Lucky Ghost. Wang Lan. Her cheeks turned red little by little as she looked at the words that continued to appear on the parchment. A strong sense of shame came over me. Make her feel ashamed. You. She opened her mouth to say something, but the words were stuck in her throat and she still couldn't speak out. She was so embarrassed that she almost left the 3 rooms and 1 living room. Damn it! You are a precognitive ghost. You don't predict other people's death situations, but you predict my psychological construction activities? You are a dog. So inhuman. If I can't beat you, I'll let you see how thick the soles of my size 36 high heels are today. See this scene. The lucky ghost couldn't help but laugh. Finally, someone like him experienced this sense of shame. Fortunately, Shen Jian was the only one present when he spoke. Otherwise, he would not have been able to imagine himself saying dog-licking quotes when outsiders were around. The other side. Shen Jian raised his brows, glanced at Wang Lan, who had his head lowered in intense shame, and was so embarrassed that he was holding the house on the ground, and glanced at the parchment. Don't use supernatural powers in messy places. If you are free, find out the number of moneyless ghosts in this copy for me. I can use them. Hear the command. The parchment reacted again. This time, it was Lucky Ghost's turn to panic. Because every time he answered Shen Jian's question, parchment would reply through his mouth. No, don't. The Lucky Ghost howled. Next second, he spoke uncontrollably. Ah! Great, sacred, and lofty master, your words are like the shining sun and golden words. Everything you think and speak is the supreme oracle. For me, who is so small and humble, to be able to listen to this oracle is the greatest honor of my life. The Lucky Ghost uttered devout praise that welled up from deep in his heart. Finished. The Lucky Ghost lies helplessly in the shadows, crawling darkly like a maggot. This world should be destroyed. Wang Lan. She was dumbfounded. Is there anyone in this world who licks so much grass? This level of outrageousness is comparable to that of a licking dog trying to find a boyfriend for a goddess. Besides, how did you overcome your shame and say this string of words? Compared to you, this is too normal for me. After such a comparison, Wang Lan suddenly felt much better. She just wants to pursue Shen Jian, unlike this prophetic ghost, who is a mad and stubborn licker. See this scene. Shen Jian supported his forehead. His decision turned out to be the right one. If he let the parchment follow him, he might have to go to the toilet. With this thought, Shen Jian turned and left, leaving behind the parchment with big eyes and small eyes and the lucky ghost. At the same time, Shen Jian returned to Su's medical center quietly. At this time, it was almost 3 o'clock in the morning. He soon noticed that the protagonist's mother in the next room was tossing and turning. My mood is even more ups and downs. To this, Shen Jian was not surprised. I wonder which woman who has just experienced something like that can still fall asleep carelessly. Moreover, he lives next door and is a strong young man. There is only a wall between them. The beautiful woman's reaction was normal. Think about it. Shen Jian shouted in a low voice, Aunt Ji, are you asleep? A long time. No response. There was dead silence in the room. As if already asleep. But for Shen Jian, he could detect even the smallest breath or heartbeat. He could tell that the beautiful woman was opening her eyes now, wondering what he wanted to say. Then, Shen Jian was talking to himself, and the words of ghosts and gods were also effective. Aunt Ji, you are so beautiful. Not only are you beautiful, but you are also kind-hearted. You saved me, but I fell in love with you. I really deserve to die. I don't deserve your treatment. I will leave here tomorrow because I have no shame in staying any longer. Thank you Aunt Ji for everything you did for me today. I will never forget what happened today. Also, I want to say, Aunt Ji, you are really beautiful. I was stunned when I was eating. Shen Jian opened his mouth and came. Under the influence of the clerical ability of words of ghosts and gods, his words became more and more sincere. Especially when the other party cannot see his eyes or face, just listening to his voice is like a person repenting, regretting that he has blasphemed the angel in white in his mind, and blaming himself for this. I can only take advantage of the opportunity to speak my inner monologue alone when no one can hear me. Another bedroom. Ghost Dr. Suji was lying on the bed, eyes wide open, listening to Shen Jian's murmurs full of self-blame. While feeling ashamed, I also had a different and wonderful feeling in my heart. She really didn't expect that Shen Jian would confess to her face to face. Although this sounds more like a little boy hiding a little secret in his heart that he dare not tell. After all, Shen Jian didn't know she was awake. Although these words were spoken to her, they were more like a muttered expression. Is she really that attractive? How could she be fascinated by such a handsome young man whom she had just met less than a day ago? For a while. Her face is a little rosy. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 628. The next day, Shen Jian was making the bed, as if he didn't intend to stay there any longer. Crunch. At this time, the door opened. A beautiful woman stood at the door, wearing a long-sleeved one-piece dress with the skirt hanging down to her ankles. She covered her hot figure tightly and at the same time, exposed her best parts without leaving any trace. One side is displayed. This is the style of a beautiful woman. They no longer need to show off their beauty through overly revealing clothes. Even in home clothes, they can look like mature women. If you dress it up again, its style will be even more swaying. Shen Jian saw it. There was a bit of surprise in his eyes. It seems that the monologue under the words of ghosts and gods has a very obvious effect. Last night, he deliberately started by blaming himself to express his feelings. Although it was just an unintentional attempt, this self-talk, which is analogous to confession, has a poisonous effect on this kind of beautiful women. Especially when the other party has a certain liking for him. The lethality is even greater. Thinking. Shen Jian pretended to be flustered and said. Aunt Ji, it's just early morning, why are you awake? See this. There was something strange in the beautiful woman's eyes. Her delicate beautiful eyes glanced at Shen Jian angrily. The reason why she knew so accurately that Shen Jian was leaving was because of his upsetting confessions last night. These words, like a depth charge, caused huge waves in her peaceful and comfortable life. She never thought that even though she was already a mother of a child, she could still attract a young man like Shen Jian. She was so praised that she began to suspect that no one had followed her over the years. It was not that she was unattractive, but that others were blind. It can be said. Shen Jian's words did make her feel some inexplicable feelings in her heart. So much so. When she listened to Shen Jian's monologue last night, her palms began to move unconsciously. Fortunately, she is a doctor and has developed a good habit of cutting her nails once a day. Otherwise, she would be afraid of hurting herself even if she wanted to do it. Think of this. The beautiful woman's face turned slightly red. Then he looked at Shen Jian and said angrily, I should be asking you this, why are you, a wounded patient, awake so early? She did not ask what to do with Shen Jian's condition after he left, because this would reveal the little secret hidden in this little man's heart. In this case, Shen Jian would definitely be more determined to leave out of shame. To this end, she decided to take a soft approach. Aunt Ji, I think, I'd better not stay and cause trouble for you. Shen Jian opened his mouth. The words of ghosts and gods are activated. No, Suji refused with a serious face, before your injury is healed, as your attending doctor, I will never allow you to leave without permission. But, my injury won't heal for a while. If something like yesterday happens, I have to trouble Aunt Ji. I hear this. Suji blushed, obviously thinking of something, but seeing Shen Jian still wanting to leave, she gritted her teeth and said, I don't mind the trouble, you saved me, this is what I should do, not to mention you call me aunt and she will definitely help you, don't think too much. Shen Jian blinked. An imperceptible smile flashed across his face. If the beautiful woman was still very resistant to helping him take a bath before, then after this time, it seemed more logical. Next. In daily life, through a little physical contact, you can lower the other party's defense line until she gets used to it. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes moved. Ghost Dr. Suji. Current status, shy, conflicted, happy. Favorability, 63, ambiguous. See this. Shen Jian hesitated and said, okay then. Don't lie to me, Aunt Ji. If you still want to leave, you must tell her and she will help you. The beautiful woman smiled warmly. Okay, now that you're up, let me help you check your condition. You should not be an ordinary red-shirt person. I saw your condition yesterday. The supernatural toxin entered your body and the yin energy dissipated quickly. This proves that you have been infected. It's been a long time since you've used supernatural toxins. In this case, you can still use the ghost realm, which is not something that a normal red-clad ghost can do. Said. The beautiful woman checked on Shen Jian again. Shen Jian didn't hide it either. Aunt Ji's miraculous doctor has a wonderful plan. Humph, I don't know what happened to you to make the other party use such vicious supernatural poison on you, but I think it is definitely extremely dangerous. I promise, don't be reckless until you fully recover. Suji said worriedly. The stronger Shen Jian is, the greater the crisis he encounters, and the terror of the enemy is beyond her imagination. She is just a woman. Although she has medical skills, she is obviously not at the level where others can give her face. There's nothing I can do to help. We can only dissuade Shen Jian from being reckless when encountering problems. Shen Jian nodded slightly. He looked at the beautiful woman in front of him with burning eyes. Suji also noticed Shen Jian's fiery gaze. She was a little confused and shy in her eyes. After all, after knowing Shen Jian's little thoughts from last night, she knew that the little boy in front of her had other thoughts about her. But she comforted herself that Shen Jian had little experience and had not seen many good girls before he had thoughts about an old woman like her. As long as Shen Jian was exposed to more young and beautiful girls, his attention would be transferred. He would no longer be interested in a widow like her whose sons had grown up. Xiao Shen, after dinner, you come down to the medical center. It's not good to stay up there all the time. Just do it. Suji immediately decided to let Shen Jian meet more girls. Although her medical clinic is not a big clinic, there are not many visitors every day, especially female college students from ghost schools. Many come here for medical treatment. Finding one for Shen Jian shouldn't be a problem. Soon. After breakfast, Shen Jian followed Suji to the medical clinic. He basically sat at the door and greeted patients when they came. It's quite leisurely. Those who come to the small clinic for medical treatment are not seriously ill. With the medical skills of the protagonist's mother, who is close to a famous doctor, it will not take long for them to be cured. That's all. Shen Jian stayed here for the next few days. He did nothing but chatted with Suji in a polite manner. As time went by, the relationship between the two made full progress. Now he can say some ambiguous words to the protagonist's mother. Sometimes. He would always rub the beautiful woman's shoulder intentionally or unintentionally, or when the beautiful woman asked him what type of girl he liked, he would reply that he liked Aunt Ji. When the two of them stayed on the same sofa, they no longer felt the discomfort they felt before. Shen Jian could clearly detect that this beautiful woman was becoming more and more relaxed and less vigilant towards him. Sometimes she would just call him while wearing patterned hollow pajamas. This clearly goes beyond the patient-to-patient relationship. Their relationship is more like close friends of both sexes. Suji also noticed this development, but her attitude was a little contradictory and confused. On the one hand, Shen Jian's appearance filled the void of her boring, endless, ordinary life for more than 10 years, made her life ups and downs, and made up for her longing for her son. On the other hand, acting like this in front of a boy who has small thoughts about her, she was afraid that Shen Jian would lose control and do something that would affect their relationship. This contradiction made it difficult for her to let go. To this, Shen Jian was not in a hurry, but worked slowly and carefully. When dealing with a very independent widow like the protagonist's mother, being too eager will scare them away, while being too slow will make them calm down and rethink their relationship. The degree here must be grasped well. Just like sand, you cannot hold it with a strong grip. But if you put a little water on it, you can shape it into whatever shape you want. He looked forward to the day of shaping sand into various shapes. Shen Jian smiled. Have a plan in mind. This day, Shen Jian was guarding the door as usual. Several female college students rushed over and called for the doctor. The leader, Shen Jian, knew the man he had saved from the robbers before. Full of youth and girlishness. Apart from the fact that his face is a bit pale and he likes to walk with his head in his hands, he is really good. I heard from Aunt Ji that the other party was a flower. I wanted to introduce him to him before. What's wrong? Suji hurriedly ran out. The white coat was put on her body, covering her figure, but it could not block her impressive size. Dr. Su, my friend suddenly collapsed for some reason. The head-holding female ghost lifted out a female ghost with a pale face and gray skin behind her. Suji frowned. He fell down for no reason, it wasn't a death, and there was no dissipation of yin qi, so it could only be a supernatural attack. Did she offend anyone? No, and we were walking on the road at the time. If someone planned to attack us, we wouldn't have noticed it at all. But it wasn't until she fell that we realized something was wrong. By the way, this is her cell phone. She was looking at it, and then her face changed. A female college student said nervously. Suji took it and looked at it, wondering, supernatural, game. Dr. Su, haven't you heard of it? This game is very popular recently. Almost everyone at Scarlet University plays it. It is said that every time a level is passed, a large amount of horror coins will be awarded. If you can clear all the levels, you can achieve it. A wish of the passer. Hear this. Shen Jian's eyes moved slightly. Scarlet University is the school where the protagonist is. It is also the main scene of this movie copy. The protagonist's downhill life begins when Scarlet University protects his fiancée, the campus beauty. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 629. Scarlet University. Hearing this name, Shen Jian was slightly startled. According to the plot summary of the movie copy he learned, the protagonist Lin Yan's first stop after coming down from the mountain was Scarlet University. With a letter of introduction from his mysterious master, he became a special admission student of Scarlet University, entered the art department, and successfully followed the school beauty's fiancé is in the same class. And the source of this supernatural game is actually Scarlet University. Could it be that the so-called main plot has begun? Shen Jian was thoughtful. His identity is an unknown person in the celestial temple created by the protagonist, and his plot mission ended long before his arrival. In other words, there is no part for him in this script. Perhaps for this reason, he has not triggered any main plot, branch plot, or hidden mission until now. Think of this. Shen Jian opened the chat interface. Looked through it a few times. Really? He found some clues. Mr. Chi, who else is in Baikan district? I have sneaked into Scarlet University, but I have no way to get close to the protagonist group. Damn, a generation of top ghost kings, who can learn this kind of art. Lian Cheng, I've also gotten into it. I've been listening in. I've first gotten to know the protagonist's fiancé's best friend, and then I've taken advantage of the opportunity to get closer to the protagonist, but he's really a good guy. I've followed the protagonist's fiance's best friend next to my friend. I saw with my own eyes that the protagonist pretended to be a dozen in 5 days. It was indeed a series worthy of the urban soldier king. This bastard spirit almost blinded me. Sister Lan, I have also left Nanchanj district and came to Baikan district to collect a lot of information. According to a few words of description, I learned that the force created by the protagonist is called Tian Shen Temple, and at least a red-clothed ghost can join it. Sister Lan, of course, if you have other talents, the requirements can be lowered, such as intelligence gathering ability, hacking skills, etc. You can also join as an exception. Sister Lan, I have joined the Tian Shen Temple as an intelligence talent. Don't think about it. Wang Yian's 3 messages were sent in 3 time periods respectively. The latest one dates back to a day ago. In terms of efficiency, it is undoubtedly the best among all players. Shen Jian took a few glances. Soon. There is a new message in the chat interface. Sister Lan at all members, just half a day ago, the Master of the Temple of Heaven personally issued a task, asking our intelligence department personnel to track down the supernatural game incident at Scarlet University. The rewards are very generous if you are in Baikan district. If you can provide for any clues of any value, I can share the rewards equally, and I can also help you with referrals. As soon as this news came out, all the players were stunned. According to the current information, the Master of the Temple of Heaven is the protagonist of the movie copy here, and their purpose is to join the force created by the protagonists so that they can survive in the 5-star copy. Witness the protagonist's rise. If they can attract the attention of the protagonist during this period and entrust them with important tasks, then even if a copy of the movie is released, they no longer need to worry about their own safety, because they will have an extra ghost as a backer. The temptation is too great. But among them, there are not a few players who have entered Baikan district, but there are very few who have sneaked into Scarlet University. They had no idea about the so-called supernatural game. Not long after, someone answered this question. Mr. Chi, I know, I clean at Scarlet University, and I know a lot about this supernatural game. The origin of this inexplicable appearance in the school is very strange. No one knows who spread the news. All I know is that one day suddenly, one after another, students receive invitations from supernatural games. Once they agree, an app will appear on their mobile phones. Mr. Chi, I also heard some rumors. It is said that this supernatural game app has a total of 12 levels. Everyone has different tasks in each level. Every time you pass a level, you will be rewarded with a large amount of horror coins. I am in the same position. A colleague of the cleaners received this invitation. Mr. Chi, at first, the tasks were just some simple daily activities. He passed the first 3 levels very easily and accumulated 100,000 horror coins, but starting from the 4th level, he will be asked to kill people. After passing the 6th level, the reward had become 500,000 thriller coins, and by the 9th level, the reward had become 2 million thriller coins. Even I was jealous when I saw it, but on the 3rd day, he died. Mr. Chi, he died in bed without any warning. I heard clearly at that time that after my colleague came back in the middle of the night, he was cursing. Soon he looked panicked and seemed to be begging for mercy on his mobile phone. Then he died in the bed in the dormitory. Even until his death, he could not withdraw the 2 million thriller coins in the app. Listen to Mr. Chi's story. All the players were immediately chilled. This routine is so familiar. Isn't this a common method used by casinos? Set a high bonus to attract a large number of gamblers, and then use various means to squeeze out the gamblers' money. In the end, they killed 100 people and sold them again for money. And they have heard of similar games in the real world. This type of game usually sets an absolutely impossible task in the last level or two, such as suicide, so that no one can win. Winning will only be the mastermind behind the app. But harvesting the lives of participants on such a large scale is definitely not something that can be caused by a small amount of ghosts. There must be a huge force behind it. If it's not the protagonist's celestial temple, it can only be the villain organization of this movie copy, Yin Cao. Think of this. The inner ambition of some players was extinguished. Danger. Too dangerous. If he had acted more conspicuously, he wouldn't have been assassinated by this underworld organization. They join the protagonist's force to survive, not to help the protagonist shine and attract attention. A long time. No one replied. Apparently. They are all considering the pros and cons. With this opportunity, they can enter the eyes of the protagonist. It is not a problem to join the Celestial Temple, but the consequence is that they will also enter the eyes of the members of the Yin Cao organization. In the early stage, the protagonist does not have such a big advantage against Yin Cao. In other words, the protagonist who has not yet advanced to the level of Ghost and God is not Yin Cao's opponent yet. Whether the protagonist will go into full-scale war with Yinko for some of their unknown people is also an unknown factor. In this case, one cannot be too cautious. The other side. Shen Jian looked at the content of the chat interface. I have learned a lot about this supernatural game. In his opinion, there is no doubt that this supernatural game is probably related to the underworld. After all, how can we force the protagonist to grow without putting any pressure on him? This is very routine thinking. The movement in the medical center gradually stopped. No, she has been possessed by some kind of conscious spirit and is in a temporary dormant state. I guess someone wants to capture her ghost, and they do so through the consciousness level. Soon. Ghost Dr. Suji gave her own judgment. He felt annoyed that his medical skills were not good enough to save him. Consciousness is always one of the most mysterious and weird supernatural beings. It can modify consciousness and reverse reality. From hypnosis, suggestion, psychic induction. And she is just a ghost doctor who can cure physical problems, but cannot also affect consciousness. How so? The female ghost holding her head screamed with grief on her face. Doctor, is there really nothing we can do? Alas, Suji sighed and gritted her teeth and said, according to your theory, she became like this because of playing this supernatural game app. Maybe you can think of a solution from this aspect, but behind this supernatural game app, there must be terror at the conscious level, and with your level of terror. The word stopped abruptly. But everyone knows what it means. He was able to launch a strange supernatural attack from 1,000 miles away, just by relying on an app installed on his mobile phone, dragging a red-clothed level ghost into the abyss and falling into a deep sleep. Even some top ghost kings don't have such terrifying supernatural powers. With their strength, let alone saving people, it would be a blessing not to get involved. Let me try. At this time, Shen Jian said. His reply immediately attracted everyone, including Suji. Especially the female college students are very interested in this man who once stood up and saved the beauty. Ghost Dr. Suji frowned. Xiao Shen, don't be brave. The supernatural toxins in your body have not been completely eliminated, and you are still injured. Shen Jian opened his mouth. The words of ghosts and gods turned into passivity. Aunt Ji, you know me. My character does not allow me to ignore death. Moreover, I don't want anyone to die in the hospital. This will damage your medical name. I don't want to see you sad. Shen Jian's eyes were deep. His face doesn't turn red, his heart doesn't beat, and he opens his mouth to speak ambiguous words. Suji was stunned. He pursed his lips and said nothing. The heart rate keeps increasing. This little Shen is good at everything, but she can't understand the fact that he likes her as a widow. In the past few days, she had also talked about this topic with Shen Jian. But she was defeated every time. Because Shen Jian would hold her hand and look like I only like Aunt Ji. But he dared not say anything. Keep these thoughts deep in your heart. As everyone knows, how could she not see this clue as someone who has been here before? Are you sure? A long time. Suji said seriously. Originally there was no such thing, but for Aunt Ji's sake, I am 100% sure. Shen Jian smiled. What nonsense. Suji spat and repeated uneasily. Really sure? Yes, my supernatural powers are also related to consciousness. With Aunt Ji's meticulous care, my supernatural powers have recovered somewhat. Hear this. The beautiful woman rolled her eyes at Shen Jian again. This made her feel at ease. Because she really took good care of Shen Jian. Even the bathing problem was taken care of by her herself. And this little man was becoming more and more bold in front of her, and he was no longer shy without covering up. She can see the picture of spreading its wings and flying high every day. Finally, Suji still agreed to Shen Jian's suggestion. See it? Shen Jian also came to the female ghost in front of the hospital bed, his eyes flashing. The main reason why he came to help, besides wanting to gain favor, was that this female ghost had a supernatural power similar to that of a soul-binding person. This is what Suji said about catching ghosts at the conscious level. This method is really similar to the underworld. He wanted to know what was going on with this underworld. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 630. At this time, under everyone's gaze, Shen Jian put his hand on the female ghost's head. A wisp of soul escaped into it. Soul binding, this is the most basic ability of the underworld. Whether it's a morning stick or a soul-catching chain, it's all about the ghosts of evil spirits. For example, Wei Qing, Xianju, and other living people also have the ability to enter the netherworld. And this, of course, is not a problem for him as the king of hell. But what the people in the underworld can do seems to be as difficult as climbing to heaven to the outside world, especially in this world where immortals, gods, demons, and Buddhas do not exist, and no one has the ability to enter the underworld as a soul. This also includes Li Gui. Supernatural phenomena are unreasonable and all-encompassing, but do not include soul binding, soul receiving, soul entering, and other supernatural powers. Among all the ghosts Shen Jian has seen, there are very few that involve supernatural powers. Even if they have similar abilities, they are all castrated and incomplete versions. However, the person behind this supernatural game app is suspected to have mastered some of the supernatural powers of catching ghosts. It seems that it is not mastered by just one or two people, but has already formed a large scale. After all, there can't be anyone else. The mastermind behind the supernatural game app just shows up and takes action. This is too disrespectful and cannot be controlled. The only possibility is that this soul-binding supernatural power can be wholesaled. Think of this possibility. The mysterious look in Shen Jian's eyes deepened. Is it possible that this underworld really has something to do with the underworld, rather than just a simple affair? With this thought, Shen Jian entered the female ghost's consciousness. In a gray space, a ray of Shen Jian's soul appeared. The appearance of the solidified body is walking in the space of consciousness. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of chains colliding suddenly sounded. A sinister and penetrating voice sounded simultaneously. Jajaja, you have already lost. The rule of the supernatural game is to clear 12 levels at once. There is no turning back. Once you lose, it is equivalent to automatically triggering the supernatural law. Your ghost has been recovered by us, the netherworld ghost. Dark laughter sounded. Shen Jian took a closer look. Two ghost figures wearing black official robes were holding a chain around the neck of a crying female ghost. Their faces were full of horror. He looks like evil thieves oppressing good people. Shen Jian. It ruins the style of the underworld, right? Shen Jian's eyes were very different. At a glance, these two ghost figures wearing the same style of underworld robes looked exactly like Yinze. For someone who didn't know better, I'm afraid they would have regarded it as a sinister incident. But in Shen Jian's eyes, these people were simply trying to discredit the underworld. When will the local government enforce the law and be responsible for explaining the reasons? Just flick the soul-catching chain and hit the morning stick. No matter how much the ghost wails, it can't escape the fate of being trapped in the soul-binding bag. And what are these two ghosts doing? He was actually explaining the reason for arresting her. Omega. The family is unfortunate. The style of the underworld was thus destroyed. But think about it. After all, these people are just copycats. It is normal for them not to have such professional business level. Then Shen Jian walked over. This time, the two ghost figures who were trapped in the soul immediately noticed it. I saw some people walking arrogantly in the consciousness space. They were confused. Netherworld ghost messenger? No. This is the deepest consciousness space of Li Gui. How did you get in? Is it possible that you are still the second personality of this female ghost? This is not right either. Even if you have a split personality, there is no reason for two personalities to appear at the same time. The two ghosts were stunned for a moment. Then they reacted. Grass. Someone invaded this female ghost's world of consciousness and came here. In other words, this is to save people. Think of this. The expressions of the two netherworld ghost angels suddenly turned cold. The ghosts of the underworld arrest the souls and cannot be seen by others. Boy, you are in bad luck. If you arrest one, it will be the same as arresting two. Said. One of the ghosts had already walked over with a chain. There was a sinister expression on his face that was typical of a fierce ghost. Shen Jian saw it. Somewhat disappointed. He was wrong. Apart from the name and style of the imitation underworld, this group of people is basically a ghost, not a sinister person. Although Yin Chai is also a ghost, he is not influenced by good or evil in his affairs and will only resolutely implement the regulations of the underworld. Rather than being like these two so-called ghosts from the underworld, they showed their true ghost-like appearance, showing full malice, and the law enforcement process was also very casual. It gives the impression that he is just an evil ghost with another identity. He overestimated this conspiracy. Even if the other party is really related to the underworld, I'm afraid it's only superficial. Thinking. Shen Jian raised his head, with no intention of studying it carefully. He opened his mouth and said, "This female ghost is still useful to me, can you let me go?" Haha, what do you think? Do you think that we develop a supernatural game for charity? Just take it away if you are told to take it away. The ghost's footsteps came closer. He is very confident. His true body has entered the space of consciousness, and he can exert the full strength of Li Gui. To become a nether ghost messenger, the lowest level of terror is also a ghost king. He is a ghost king. Is there any problem with swelling? Yes, Shen Jian nodded and grinned. Since she lost herself by playing a game, why not let's play a game too? Have you ever heard of a game of courage? What, you dare to play with us? The ghost smiled. The smile was cruel. Those of them who can join the Yin Cao and become the ghost envoys of the underworld are not cruel and violent people. What's more, being able to become the ghost king of one side proves that their courage is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Let alone a game of courage, even if it is a game of gambling on life, they dare to participate without blinking an eye. Certainly. Shen Jian took out a scalpel from his body. Trial games are usually only seen in some bad places. The most basic courage test game is to quickly insert a knife between the 5 fingers. The comparison is about mentality and technique. Haha, if you lose, we will keep one more soul. The ghost laughed sinisterly. Certainly. Even if he loses, he still has to arrest 2 souls. Playing is a win-win situation. I'll go first. Shen Jian grinned and chopped it off without leaving any trace of ink. His movements were so fast, so cruel, and so calm, as if he was not his own hand. Even the netherworld ghost angel nearby couldn't help but his eyelids twitched. Too cruel. This is not taking your body seriously at all. He could see that this scalpel was a ghost weapon. If it was dismembered, he would probably become a cripple in a short time. Although he dared to participate in the life-betting game without blinking an eye, he still cherished his life. He was indeed a little shocked by Shen Jian's ruthless gameplay. Phew. 3 fingers fell off. Netherworld Ghost Messenger. He was confused. He raised his hand and looked at his 3 dismembered fingers, with a hint of disbelief in his eyes. What the hell are you doing? You don't use your own hands to play a game of courage. Damn it. No wonder you dare to be so cruel to yourself. It's not your own hands that you dared to interfere with. You are a real dog. What are you doing? Why did you put my hand in? Seeing 3 of his fingers being dismembered, the ghost's eyes were about to burst. Shen Jian shook his head. You don't know something about this. What if I insert my hand and my finger falls off? I'm afraid of pain. Netherworld Ghost Envoy. The corner of his mouth twitched. You're really a humming genius. What a genius in the world of understanding. Are you so afraid of pain that you can insert my hand? It doesn't hurt me to co-write it, right? Think of this. His eyes became more ferocious. You dare to play tricks on me? You can't afford to offend Yin Cao. Let's go together and arrest him first, then locate him and capture his true body. Yin Cao is lacking a large number of ghosts with consciousness and supernatural beings. I will arrest you, it can be considered a great achievement. The ghost with 3 fingers dismembered began to call another accomplice. The 2 ghost angels grabbed the hook chain at the same time and threw it towards Shen Jian. Haha, you can't afford it, right? At worst, I'll chop off 3 of your other accomplices' fingers, so that's fair. Shen Jian said with a smile. From the very beginning, he had been observing these 2 netherworld ghosts, and found that apart from Ghost King level Yin Qi fluctuations, the other party did not show any supernatural powers of consciousness, which corroborated his previous speculation. Within this underworld organization, there is the ability to allow Ghost Kings to enter the conscious world of others in batches. The medium is supernatural games. Once someone stops and loses the game, the killing pattern left on the supernatural game app will be triggered, dragging their consciousness into the abyss, and then the so-called ghost envoy will come to capture the soul through the medium to achieve the purpose of collecting the ghosts. To achieve this, even the top ghost kings are not qualified. It must be a supernatural power above ghosts and gods to be able to do it. The master of this underworld organization has already reached the level of a ghost. Shen Jian was a little strange. Because according to the plot summary he saw, the master of Yinko Palace should not be promoted to ghosts and gods so quickly, because once promoted, the balance will be broken. The Yin Cao organization with ghosts and gods sitting in its midst is simply not something that the protagonist's celestial temple can compete with. Could it be that his passive title has taken effect again? Shen Jian's eyes were strange. If so, that would be wonderful. The benefits brought by catching a ghost and god are not comparable to those of catching a group of fierce ghosts. The other side. Looking at Shen Jian's shameless smile, the 2 ghosts became even more angry. His grandma, does this man still have skin on his face? This is totally shameless. Your understanding of fairness has gone beyond the current version. With rage, the 2 men rushed forward. Less than a minute. There were 2 more figures tied up in chains underground. The 2 ghosts lay on the ground with bruises and swollen noses and began to doubt life. Their 2 ghost kings were actually inferior to a person whose soul entered the world of consciousness. What is this concept? This shows that this man's body is at least at the top ghost king level, and has even reached the level of a ghost. But how is this possible? How could there be ghosts and gods in Wutong City? If there are ghosts and gods, how can the underworld grow and become a nightmare in Wutong City? They don't understand. But that doesn't stop them from knowing that they are going to die. I should have known this. It would be better to just break off a few fingers. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 631. Within the world of consciousness. Shen Jian stepped on the two netherworld angels and showed a kind smile. Tell me, where is the headquarters of your Yinko organization? Before defeating the protagonist's mother, he actually didn't want to solve the Yin Cao organization so quickly. After all, after the dungeon was released, he would not be able to fully recover the dragon energy. Moreover, he has always suspected that the mysterious master of the protagonist is the so-called world-weary ghost, but this character does not have any role in the plot summary of the copy of the movie. Some are just the identity of the protagonist's master and the role of giving the protagonist a golden finger. As for living there, there is absolutely no clue. He didn't want to clear the dungeon so quickly, in large part because he wanted to find this world-weary ghost and god hiding in the dark and get the authority over the third place, Luo Fengtian, from him. But this underworld organization is really getting in the way. The power spreads all over Wutong City. There is a base for selecting new recruits in Nanjing District, and there is another supernatural game in Baikan District. He estimates that the entire Wutong City should be within Yinko's sphere of influence. Shen Jian then thought about it. Isn't this the best intelligence organization? With the strength of the Yin Cao organization, even if there are no traces of the world-weary ghosts and gods, they can at least find some clues. Coupled with the precognitive powers of the parchment, it won't take long to pinpoint their location accurately. No matter what. He also gets this clue through the protagonist. Think of this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. He is the lord of the underworld, and this underworld should belong to him. Hear this. The two ghosts and gods looked at each other in confusion. What? Are you striving to be the envoy of the netherworld who regard death as death? Shen Jian's eyes became dangerous. Well, we don't know where Yin Cao's headquarters is. The netherworld ghost messenger with intact fingers said weakly. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Tell me specifically what you know. Sir, it's like this. There is a strong hierarchy within the Yin Cao organization. It is divided into 4 levels: ghost envoys, ghost generals, judges, and palace masters. Like our new ghost kings who have just entered the Yin Cao, most of them are the most basic ghost envoys, responsible for some finishing work, such as the current soul arresting work. As for deeper secrets, headquarters clues, and the like, they are not disclosed to the lowest level ghosts like us. After we become ghosts, we are sent to the judge. We know the base area, but under normal circumstances, they will not return there, and their true identities will not be disclosed to anyone. The netherworld ghost explained. After listening, Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. This confidentiality work is done quite well. Then you don't know who your superior judge is? I don't know, but we think he should be a senior member of Scarlet University, otherwise he wouldn't be able to promote the supernatural game app so easily. This supernatural game app is currently only a part of fixed point testing, and not many people know about it. This is not a serious relationship, there is no way it could spread in Scarlet University so quickly. The two glanced at Shen Jian. Still expressed his guess. This is a mysterious existence that is suspected of being a ghost. If placed in Wutong City, it is almost invincible. Even the Lord of Yinko Palace, who is equally mysterious in their minds, may not necessarily be their opponent. They are not rebelling, they are just temporarily dormant. With this idea in mind, they quickly leaked all the information about Yin Cao. However, because they are just netherworld ghosts, what they know is only some partial information, information that any member who joins the Yinko organization can know. This bit of information is probably not even understood by the Heavenly Temple. After all, the supernatural toxin he was exposed to was contracted during an ambush on Judge Yinko. Think about it. Shen Jian continued to ask, how much do you know about this supernatural game app? We don't know much. We only know that this is a great attempt by the Yin Cao organization. If it can be successfully promoted to various places, Yin Cao will be able to completely occupy the city. But I heard that the original purpose of the supernatural game app was to use the hands of strangers to eliminate some difficult enemies for Yin Cao. The two of them micromanaged everything. Just barely sold my ass. Hear this. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Are you going to eliminate some special enemies for Yin Cao? Through the game, he controlled a stranger who had nothing to do with him or had any interactions with him to kill someone. Even if he failed, he would not leave any clues. Once the supernatural game app is promoted, everyone in the city will be in danger. Anyone may be the murderer, including people close to him. No matter how close the relationship between the two parties is, under the death threat of the supernatural game app, we can only do as we are told. This plan is quite vicious. He can easily alienate close relatives and friends, and plunge the whole city into chaos. In line with the settings of the final boss. Thoughts are spinning. Shen Jian took away the two netherworld ghost envoys. Su's medical clinic. Shen Jian opened his eyes. Moment. The female ghost with gray skin on the hospital bed also slowly woke up. There was a trace of confusion in her eyes first, and then her pupils opened. Apparently, she has remembered everything that happened in the conscious space. She remembered the time when she was almost soul-detained and was saved by a strange man. Although, this man seemed to be more cruel than the soul-detainer, it was true that he saved her. Subconsciously, she began to look for that figure. Soon I saw the man next to a beautiful woman dressed as a doctor. At this time, Shen Jian also saw the awakened green-gray female ghost. Think about it. He walked over. Asked, for the convenience of me, what level have you passed in the supernatural game? It suddenly occurred to him. It's not hard to find the judge behind Scarlet University. As he said, this supernatural game app simply cannot give players a chance to pass the level. Once they reach the last level, it will definitely be an impossible task. Or, the mission can be completed and the level can be cleared, but the prospect of clearing the level is to be brainwashed into joining an underworld organization. No matter what the possibility is, in the end it is inseparable from one person. Judge Yin Cao. In other words, he only needs to continue searching along the supernatural game, and he will eventually find the judge. Then, the judge will know the location of the Yin Cao headquarters. Then he took his place and helped him find clues about world-weary ghosts and gods. Think of this. There was a bit of excitement in Shen Jian's eyes. Whether it's the remaining dragon energy or looking for world-weary ghosts and gods, he can accomplish it through the Yin Cao organization without wasting too much of his time. If he had known this, he should have entered Yinko forcefully on the first day. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. I feel a little regretful that I missed an opportunity once and for all. Certainly. Whether the assessor can know the location of the headquarters is also a question. The other side. Hearing Shen Jian's inquiry, the gray female ghost seemed to have thought of something. His face suddenly turned pale. She gets the phone. Clicked on the supernatural game app. Watching the red writing that originally said failure disappear, it was replaced by a brand new mission. She immediately collapsed and said, "It's over. The 10th level mission has been restarted. If it cannot be completed within 3 days, what happened today will still happen to me. This app will not let me go until I completely freeze. Help me, who can help me?" Shen Jian looked as usual and said calmly, Are the tasks the same? Hearing Shen Jian speak, the gray female ghost seemed to have grasped the last straw and replied, "It's different, the mission has changed. My original 10th mission was to kill our ideological and political instructor, but I couldn't pass the test in my mind, so I didn't choose to take action until the time cleared and the mission failure message appeared." What? Here. Others also looked shocked. This supernatural game actually encourages users to kill those around them. It's too vicious. If they were asked to kill their parents and relatives, would they have no choice but to do it? Otherwise you will die. For a while. Everyone is aware of the sinister intentions of this supernatural game app. Shen Jian was about to speak. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of Ghost Dr. Suji's face looking a little strange. "Think about it," he said. "What is the task now?" The gray female ghost said, "Find out the murderer behind Scarlet University and replace him. We have heard about this murderer. We heard that he was an evil ghost who broke into Scarlet University a few days ago and was hiding. This supernatural game not only requires us to find it, but also kill it and replace the identity of this murderer. Imitating the crime, trying to force me to death." The gray female ghost began to cry. Switching to another task made it even more difficult. This is simply not something that her red-clad fierce ghost can solve. But if she doesn't finish it, she will have to experience deep sleep again 3 days later. Even if she can find Shen Jian to solve it, what about next time? As long as she fails to complete the task, she will never escape the fate of death. "I can help you." Shen Jian smiled. The smile looked very weird. For the mission of this supernatural game, it didn't say that you couldn't find outside help. He just needs to help the green and gray female ghost complete her mission, and sooner or later he will meet the judge hidden in the Scarlet University. And in his induction, there are 2 dragon energy reactions in the direction of Scarlet University. This shows that in addition to the protagonist, there is another fierce ghost carrying dragon energy within this range. While he was looking for the judge, he could also recover another piece of dragon energy to see if the world-weary ghosts and gods would react. "Really?" the gray female ghost said in surprise, and other female college students also looked at her sideways. Shen Jian nodded slightly. "You go back first, I will find you later." "Well, thank you." The gray female ghost kissed Shen Jian's cheek shyly and ran away immediately. The female ghost holding her head pouted and walked away with some resentment. The other female ghosts also waved reluctantly. Shen Jian's eyes were a little strange. Looking in the direction of Ghost Dr. Suji, he found that this beautiful woman was also staring directly at him, or in other words, staring at her left cheek that had been kissed, and she could clearly see a bit of displeasure in her expression. But soon, she seemed unhappy at the thought that she had no position, so she ignored Shen Jian and went upstairs alone. Shen Jian saw it. There was a bit of surprise in his eyes. Because he saw it? Ghost Dr. Suji. Current status: conflicted, confused, sad, disgusted, and worried. Favorability: 78, ambiguous. In the past few days, he has worked hard to increase his favorability to more than 70 points. But there will be no gains after that. It has been constant in the 70-point range, and there has been no progress. Shen Jian knew that the other party was deliberately keeping a distance from him. Don't let yourself sink deeper. But the sudden kiss from the other female ghost just now seemed to shake the beautiful woman's determination. It was like something that she had taken a fancy to but was reluctant to buy, and suddenly one day someone else also took a fancy to it, and the beautiful woman felt a sense of crisis. This caused the favorability to soar all of a sudden. Shen Jian's eyes were strange when he saw that this girl was just 2 points away from reaching the intimacy stage. The turning point is here. Sure enough, good people are rewarded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 632. Seeing Suji, a beautiful woman, going upstairs as if she was angry, a strange color flashed in Shenjian's eyes. He did not expect that his relationship with the protagonist's mother would break through in this way. Even he did not expect this, or in other words, he underestimated a woman's possessiveness. At this time, a scarlet panel emerged. It is detected that the character played by the player has no plot, and plot tasks have been added. The plot mission has been triggered. Story mission: disintegrate the supernatural game app. Content: the supernatural game app is a tentative experiment by the Yin Cao organization. It is related to the future development. Only the players of the supernatural game can survive. Task tip: I heard that Scarlet University is the origin of everything. Note: the rewards for this plot mission will be settled based on the degree of completion, and settlement can only be made after clearing the copy. Warn. Serious warning. This plot mission far exceeds the player level limit. Players can use special means to complete it. After receiving this copy, you will briefly gain add 30 favorability from the positive forces. Warning again. Accepting this mission will give the opposing force add 30 malicious intent. Shenjian glanced at the scarlet panel, with an obscure light in his eyes. This copy of the movie treats players quite well. On the premise that the player level is seriously insufficient, a certain amount of rewards were paid in advance. If played well, this favorability add 30 buff will undoubtedly be the key to a comeback. 30 points of favorability has reached the friendly stage. Even if you stand in front of a completely unfamiliar ghost, you can quickly become familiar with it. After contacting you again, you can easily reach 50 points of favorability and enter the familiar stage. At this stage, they are already relatively good friends. It's totally possible to take advantage of an opportunity to help. As long as the conditions offered are not too excessive, Li Gui will not refuse to help. Of course, facing the mastermind behind the supernatural game app, ordinary ghost friendship is of no use, but what about the protagonist? In his opinion, the purpose of this mission is to give players a chance to get to know the protagonist. Think of this. Shenjian narrowed his eyes slightly. Unusual. Thriller game is too generous this time. It's like worrying that the protagonist will fail, so that more players will gather around the protagonist and help the protagonist make plans to defeat the underworld organization. Recalling that the master of the Yin Cao palace was suspected to have been promoted to a ghost, Shenjian speculated that something had happened in this copy of the movie, causing the protagonist's winning rate to become lower. So you use this method to help the protagonist improve his winning rate? Thinking. The player base also exploded. What the hell? 30 points of favor for nothing? Since when did this Dogecoin thriller game become so generous? I used to go to the settlement dungeon and couldn't get 30 points of favor with the general supporting characters. Ma Dan, who isn't? Just thinking about being brothers and living in harmony with a ghost makes me shudder. I'm thankful that my human identity can't be discovered. The iron trees are blooming, and you can buy a horror game for free. If you tell me this, it will cause a sensation in the supernatural world. Upstairs, don't be too happy. In addition to the positive 30 points of favor, we also carry the villain's 30 points of malice. When we don't know each other, this is directly minus 30 points of favor. When we encounter a bad temper explosion, with a vicious personality, even if he just looks at the other person in the street, he will kill you directly. Yes, this is a double-edged sword. Don't forget the requirements of the plot mission. The thriller game can give us such an early reward, which means that with our ability, the pass rate of the normal game is 0. In addition to the excited ones, there were also many players who were very dignified. Thriller games will not give you a certain death task, but will definitely give you a glimmer of hope. No matter how slim the chances or how harsh the conditions are, you must still give it. This is the underlying law of horror games. It cannot be violated. And this temporary goodwill is the glimmer of hope. This also emphasizes that they are not capable of completing this plot task. One can imagine. How difficult is the mission? Sister Lan, I suspect that thriller games require us to find the protagonist. Only the protagonist's ability can resolve this crisis. I think, behind this, at least the top Ghost King is planning everything. As soon as these words came out, all players are muted. His originally excited expression suddenly froze. Top Ghost King? A group of players with an average level of 20 or 30, going to face the top Ghost King? Damn it! What's the difference between this and being transported to the Demon King's castle in the novice village? No wonder the thriller game is so kind, there is something more sinister yet to come. Lian Cheng at Sister Lan, you are too straightforward, at least give these people some hope. Sister Lan, if they don't even have this awareness, I advise them not to accept the mission, so that they can hide in one place until the end. But when the 5-star dungeon came, another person who was familiar with the protagonist joined. If we can seize the opportunity of the Heavenly Temple, after this instance, we will not be just parallel import players with game levels. Sister Lan, if you don't seize this opportunity, you will die anyway. It doesn't matter whether you are straightforward or not. Saw these words. Many players are ashamed. After hearing Wang Lan and others explain the dangers involved, they really plan to give up. Even if they can't join the Celestial Temple, they can at least survive for a while. If they are lucky enough to pass the level, they may not necessarily be the one with the worst performance and be eliminated. So many what-ifs made them lose the idea of confrontation. Just thinking about things. However, Wang Yian's words were like a loud slap in the face, leaving them ashamed. See this scene. Shen Jian was very interested. This Wang Lan has good acumen, strong mobility, and experience in managing people. He is a rare talent. For such talents, the underworld is willing to give them a chance. Despite the fact that the number of living people in the underworld was very small, only 5 in total, he regarded these people as candidates for the future city god. The 5 living people are the 5 future city gods. This Wang Lan can also be given a chance. With this thought, Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. Second floor. When Shen Jian went upstairs, then he saw Suji wearing an apron, standing in front of the chopping board, with her head bent over washing vegetables. Shen Jian's expression changed. Seeing this doctor who healed people's hearts and saved lives during the day, now taking off his professional white coat and transforming into a beautiful mature woman full of life, preparing delicious food for him, a strange emotion suddenly rose up. Think about it. Shen Jian decided to test it out. Then he also walked into the kitchen. Aunt Ji, let me help you wash the vegetables. Suji didn't raise her head or speak, she just gave way to the left side. Shen Jian. He couldn't laugh or cry. Walked past. However, since the kitchen area is not large and there is only one aisle, it can barely accommodate 1.5 people, so Shen Jian had to pass behind Suji. Only. This place can accommodate 1.5 people, and because Aunt Ji's overly proud figure and a relatively fertile location occupy most of the area, Shen Jian needs to be close to the wall when he passes by. Even so, the two inevitably came into contact. Suji felt something strange behind her. She turned her head sharply and saw Shen Jian, who was pretending to be innocent. Aunt Ji, you damn, you're blocking my way. Shen Jian blinked and said. Hear this. Suji's pretty face turned red, and she rolled her eyes at Shen Jian. She wanted to pinch Shen Jian, but she felt that it would be too advantageous for him, so she remained silent and just straightened her waist slightly. But even so, Due to Shen Jian's deliberate manipulation, contact could not be avoided. But at this level, Suji said she could still accept it. After all, when it comes to closer contact with Shen Jian, it's not like she has never had one before. Under Shen Jian's subtle influence, she has become accustomed to this level of contact, and her ability to accept it has improved a lot. Certainly. If anyone else dared to be so frivolous to her, she would have exploded long ago. He was stabbed more than a dozen times, but in the end it could only be identified as minor injuries. The other side. Seeing that the beautiful woman didn't react much to this degree of ambiguity, Shen Jian's eyes lit up. From time to time, he passed by the beautiful woman. There are countless reasons. When washing vegetables, you have to go to the right. Now that I'm not good at cooking, I'd better go to the left and wash vegetables. Why do you need to drink water and go out of the kitchen? Go out when you feel urgent to urinate. Someone shouts downstairs, let me go and take a look. In back and forth contact, Shen Jian's body couldn't help but undergo some changes. Finally. That's enough. Get out and I'll do it myself. Did he think he couldn't discover his little thoughts? Suji couldn't bear it anymore and drove Shen Jian out with a blushing face. At the same time, he did not forget to close the kitchen door to prevent Shen Jian from plotting evil and taking advantage of her. But just as Shen Jian left the kitchen with an innocent look on his face, Suji inside the glass door also showed a hint of shame, and the corners of her mouth seemed to curl up. Snort. This little man is still interested in her. As for those little girls, they are young, but they cannot resist this little man who prefers hers. Think of this. The beautiful woman couldn't help but cover her face. She, an old woman whose son is as old as Shen Jian, was jealous of a little girl just now. What happened to her? It really shouldn't be. What's more, it was her plan to introduce a young woman to Shen Jian and make him lose interest in her, an old woman. Unexpectedly, when she saw Shen Jian being secretly kissed, she couldn't accept it. Could it be that she? Suji shook her head and forced herself not to think about these things again. Since her son was taken away, she has become accustomed to being alone, and she has never thought about finding another man during this period, because her son is the reason why she sticks to it until now, but now. Her thoughts were shaken. Or because she is a little boy who is about the same age as her son. If she says this, others will think that she is an old cow eating young grass and seducing a young one. Moreover, can she really compete with those pretty and youthful little girls? Think of this. She stroked half of her face, looking a little melancholy. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 633. The Other Side. After being kicked out of the kitchen, Shen Jian returned to the bedroom, feeling a little agitated. According to this trend, when Suji's favorability reaches above 80 points, he may be able to get started. In this room, in the protagonist's former bedroom, lies his mother. Shen Jian's expression became increasingly difficult to calm down. I just felt a fire burning inside. At this time, someone sent him a private message in the chat interface. Still to Mr. Chi, Master, you should have seen this plot mission. I don't know what you think. I can cooperate with you throughout the process, and I can also help you get a pass for Scarlet University. King Yama, no, I will go tomorrow. Finished replying. Shen Jian looked at another private message. Sister Lan, Mr. Shen, I have something to tell you alone. After I joined the intelligence department of Tianshan Temple, I came into contact with a lot of secret information. I suspect that the person behind this supernatural game app is the Yin Cao organization, and some people speculate that it turns out that this is probably an inexplicable supernatural power that can only be performed by beings above ghosts and gods. Sister Lan, if this is the case, We will no longer have the ability to complete the task except relying on the protagonist. Therefore, Mr. Shen, I know you still hide your strength, but in this case, it is better not to act alone and wait for the protagonist to go investigate all of this. Even if the task completion rate is low, the task is still completed. Shen Jian saw it. I don't really have any ideas. The existence of a suspected ghost is enough to dispel all the player's thoughts. Wang Lan has followed him and knows that he can easily suppress a group of ghost kings and 2 abyss-level ghosts, but ghosts and gods are especially superior to the 2. Not to mention ghosts and gods, even top ghost kings can easily do what he did before. Under such circumstances, Wang Lan advised him not to be the first person, which was normal. In the eyes of the other party, this task is not for them to complete at all, but for the player to use the favorability point to explain everything clearly to the protagonist and let the protagonist complete it. This difficulty is more suitable for players. If players are directly asked to dismantle the supernatural game app, even with the initial favorability bonus, there is no certainty. What players have to do is to use the resources of the Celestial Temple to increase their supernatural strength and take care of some trivial matters. Shen Jian narrowed his eyes. It's easy to guess Wang Yian's thoughts. Kill with a borrowed knife. The 5-star movie dungeon is not something that players can touch. The only thing players can do in this dungeon is to strengthen themselves as much as possible and follow the footsteps of the protagonist. The rest should be completed if it can be completed, and shelved if it cannot be completed. Very sensible and decisive. Shen Jian nodded slightly. King Yama, got it? Shen Jian smiled. The smile is a bit weird. He knows, but he doesn't listen. The main thing is that it goes in through the left ear and comes out through the right ear. Not long after, Shen Jian walked out of the bedroom. Dinner is ready. As soon as I sat down, I saw a beautiful woman walking out of the kitchen. He looked slightly startled. Because he found that Suji's clothes seemed to have changed. Different from the conservative clothes worn under a white coat during the day, the beautiful woman is wearing this outfit. Although not much skin is exposed, it unexpectedly shows off her figure. She wore a black turtleneck sweater on her upper body and blue and white jeans on her lower body, which tightly wrapped her proud figure, making her entire figure more slender and giving her a sense of high-end fashion. Shen Jian's eyes flashed. When he helped wash the dishes just now, the beautiful woman seemed not to have changed into the suit yet, which meant that she had just changed into it. What made her choose to change into a new set of clothes in the middle of cooking? Or is it this attractive fashion style that is completely different from home clothes? The other side. Feeling Shen Jian's burning gaze, Suji blushed secretly and raised the corners of her mouth slightly. This set is one of the few styles she can compare with those of young girls. She was also obsessed at the time. Unexpectedly, by some strange combination of circumstances, he changed out of his home clothes and put on the clothes of his youth. Although it was a bit tight, she felt it was worth it when she saw the look in Shen Jian's eyes. It's not just young girls who understand fashion. Suji proudly raised her hand and took off the apron tied around her neck. The proud capital underneath was revealed, and because of her raising her hand, the scale was magnificent. At first glance, it is simply eye-catching. Suji casually put the apron on the table and chair aside, and sat down on the chair. The perfect curve pressed an amazing arc under the chair, which showed how soft it was. Shen Jian made no secret of his appreciation and murmured in his heart. It seemed that what happened in the afternoon really made the protagonist's mother a little anxious. Doesn't she know that she is already tempting him? If it weren't for the fear of progressing too quickly and not being able to get it right, he would have liked to eat another dish now. Period. The two seem to have a tacit understanding. One looks at it, and the other shows off his figure without leaving any trace. The atmosphere seemed a bit ambiguous. The ambiguity made Suji feel confused, and she became increasingly unable to bear Shen Jian's fiery gaze. She put her chopsticks down and was about to leave when Shen Jian called out to her. "Aunt Ji, when you heard about the supernatural game before, you seemed to have something wrong with your expression. Do you have any thoughts?" Shen Jian asked. "Hear this." Suji was obviously stunned, but she still sat back. He showed a forced smile. "I didn't expect you to notice this. I'm just a little worried." "Worry? Well, you may not know, but I have a younger sister who works as an ideological and political tutor at Scarlet University. I heard that a supernatural game was going to kill the ideological and political tutor. I was shocked, but if I think about it, my sister didn't offend anyone, and there was more than one instructor for the ideological and political course, and the tasks were reset, so I didn't take it to heart." Hear the words. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. "I remembered. There is indeed an introduction to this woman in the personnel list. But it's just a name and no further introduction. Did he turn out to be a tutor at Scarlet University?" Shen Jian glanced at Suji. "I have a different view in my heart. This beautiful woman still doesn't know that her son has returned, nor does she know that her son is at Scarlet University, nor does she know that her son has established the Temple of Heaven to specifically fight against the Yin Cao organization. According to the wishes of the Netherworld Ghost, the Yin Cao organization can decide the user's next mission on its own. Most of the time, the chosen purpose is the special existence that Yin Cao wants to get rid of. Could it be? Yin Cao has already found out the true identity of the protagonist, so has he issued such a mission? So next, is it the protagonist's mother's turn?" Shen Jian narrowed his eyes slightly. "I have an idea in my mind. After meal." Shen Jian put away the dishes. "Think about it." The shadow behind him stood up. "Blends into the room. Do it all." Shen Jian also disappeared into the bedroom. Scarlet University. When Shen Jian came to the door. "It's not dark yet." He contacted the green and gray female ghost and soon entered the ghost school. "Brother, after I went back, I checked for clues about this murderer, but there were not many, but I still asked and found out that this murderer only acts at night and has caused several killings in a row, but there has never been one. Show any flaws. After discussion, we believe that this murderer is probably disguised as a member of the school. Only in this way can we not be caught until now." The green-gray female ghost began to tell. A grimace full of solemnity. "It is extremely difficult to find a murderer among the thousands of ghosts in Scarlet University. And she only had 3 days. It's almost impossible to find it out. Brother, how about we wait 3 days and I die again? Then maybe the mission will be changed again." The gray female ghost said weakly. A hint of crying can still be heard in the voice. After all, even if you are a ghost, you don't want to experience the pain of being in deep sleep and being trapped in your soul one after another. But there was nothing she could do. If this murderer was so easy to catch, how could he not be caught for so many days? It's basically impossible to find it out with just the two of them. Hear this. Shen Jian pondered for a moment. Open the chat interface. King of Yama at Mr. Chi, come to the school gate. Soon. A middle-aged man wearing a security uniform with a little belly ran over. Seeing Shen Jian, Chi Shan was a little excited and said, "Master, you are finally here. Without you, I would only dare to close one eye while sleeping in the middle of the night. One eye," said. He also saw the female college student next to Shen Jian, a fierce ghost in red. If he met her alone, he would naturally give up 3 points, but now that Shen Jian was still there, he was afraid of a ball. Shen Jian took a few glances. It turned out that I was applying for a job as a security guard. No wonder I dare to say that I can give him a pass. He was also unambiguous and asked, "Have you heard about the murderer?" Chi Shan was startled. His neck was slightly shivered. Apparently the name was a huge deterrent to him. He carefully looked around and said mysteriously, "Master, are you looking for this murderer?" "Yes, her supernatural game has reached the 10th level. I want to see what will happen after she completes the level." Shen Jian pointed at the gray female ghost. There was no need to hide it. So. Qi Shan had some emotion in his eyes. He is worthy of being an expert who is suspected of being a city god. His efficiency is astonishing. As soon as the plot mission has just begun, he has already found a user who has passed the 10th level. He also plans to pass 12 levels to track down the real culprit behind the supernatural game. Who else besides the city god could achieve such courage? That's a coincidence. I think, I should know who this murderer is. Qi Shan's tone was heavy. There was a bit of fear on his face. Tell me about it. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. Master, you remember what I said before. After I applied for a position at Scarlet University, I was assigned to a two-person dormitory, and my colleague died in the dormitory because of playing a supernatural game. Shen Jian nodded. The other party did mention these words in the chat interface. And after that. Then, a new colleague moved in. He behaved very strangely. He looked at me as if he were looking at some food. One night, I found out in a daze that the new colleague seemed to be looking at me under the moonlight. He took off his skin, revealing a ferocious face. I suspect, he is the murderer hiding in the school.